Welcome to Rice TVX and the latest transmission of Stranger Than Fiction. On today's show, I am joined by Alphonse Faggiolo. He is a fellow truth seeker and freedom activist. He's on a mission to decode the Matrix and share that information with the rest of the world. Today, I get to know him better, learn more about his work, his YouTube channel, his website. We talk about legal fiction and law, and much more. But before we get into it, if this just happens to be your first time ever watching any of my videos, I do encourage you to check out and explore my channel. Make sure you're subscribed, smash that like button, and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with my videos as they come out. I encourage everyone to check out my Patreon channel, where I post up exclusive content. You get early access to videos, and it's a way to support the channel directly. Be sure you're following me on Library and Odyssey, where I have backups of all of my videos and post up extra content. And check out Rice Radio, that is hosted on Anchor.fm. It's available on every major podcasting platform at Rice Radio, with new episodes coming out weekly. And in case you don't know, I am partnered up with Money Metals Exchange. And that means you can get a free half ounce of silver. All you need to do is go to moneymetals.com, be a first-time buyer, purchase $100 or more, use the promo code RICE, R-I-C-E, you get a free half ounce of silver, and it's an additional way to support the channel as well. I'm going to have links down below for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything we talk about on today's show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, joining me today is someone who's been decoding the Matrix, someone who's bringing about this hidden knowledge in the world of law. He was brought to my attention by my media coordinator, Kat Peterson. This is Alphonse Faggiolo. Alphonse, I appreciate you accepting my invitation to come on Stranger Than Fiction. Welcome to Rice TVX. How you doing today?
No, man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Good, I'm good.
And I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I want to let people know that I'm going to have links down below for everything that we talk about on today's show. You've been making your way around. I've been hearing a lot of things about in regards to your work with affidavits. As we were discussing before we started recording, you're kind of bridging this gap and putting your own interpretation into commercial law and common law. You've made several appearances, 5, I think you mentioned, on Crow 777 radio. So I encourage people that are checking out Crow, because he's been on the show, as well as KL. So make sure you check those out. He's also got his own YouTube channel, and he's been working with Christopher James from A Warrior Cause, who, you know, has been on the channel as well. So Alphonse, man, before we begin, I'd like to get to know people.
Sure.
So do you mind, telling me and everybody else a little bit of like who Alphonse Faggiolo is?
Well, it's funny, man. I talk about like, I compare myself to my cousin Vinny. Okay, like I grew up in Southwest Philadelphia as a kid, and
those two Utes, those Utes.
Yeah, 2 Utes. You know, and listen, we're sort of like no nonsense. You know, don't tell me that a corporate fiction is suing me. That's like Mickey Mouse suing me. You know, that kind of stuff just doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, so I grew up in Southwest Philly, so I think that's where a lot of this comes from, the background. But I was a recording engineer for 30 years and a producer. I worked in the music industry for 30 years. I worked at the pretty much world famous Sigma Sound Studios in Philadelphia. I think Sigma's cut over, they had a studio in New York too, they cut over 160 gold albums. So I was lucky. I sort of caught the tail end of the recording industry before it started collapsing, late 80s, early 90s. And got to work with some, the who's who of R&B at the time, because that's what Sigma was, a big R&B studio. So, but as everything, as we see with technology, as memory got cheaper and hard drives got bigger and processors got faster, and we started seeing, 75% of the project that we would have in a studio would go to these little project studios, which is both a curse and a blessing. Right. A curse that because we knew that the studio was going to collapse, because my God, we had the first 32-track digital machine in the country at Sigma. We had 2 of them.
Wow. Each
one of them cost $250,000. $500,000 for 64 tracks, 2 machines.
Right. We're talking old school, reel to reel, like
digital, yeah.
No digital.
Real.
All analog. I love it.
$500 computer right now. Okay. So you figure it out. It's a bad business model. When you got loans on $500,000 of equipment, and now there's a computer out there for $500 that can match it. That's a problem. So we seen that coming, but it actually was a help for a while. For about 7 or 8 years, I had my own recording studio, and I had it in my house. And big time. I mean, I did soundproofing. I had built a room within a room, and did some really nice stuff. Actually, one thing that actually charted on the Billboard charts, which I thought was pretty cool. And it was done in my house, you know.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, but as file sharing started, and I got a lot of friends. I'm with the Berklee College of Music, and I got a lot of friends in a lot of big bands. And they actually told me, Al, man, listen, they said, we don't feel like doing albums no more, because as soon as we do the album, the next day, it's up there in the file sharing sites, and there's no sales, you know, and everybody's sharing it. So I seen the industry coming to a close. And at that time, I started, as the musician was going on, my dad had gotten sick, and my mom was taking care of him. It was a lot of work. So I started chipping in there and spending a lot of time at their house, back and forth. And during that time, I started, you know, I remember watching the TV one night with my mom, and everything on the TV news was this regulation, that regulation, this law, that law. And I looked at my mom and I said, when did we give all our rights away? How did this happen? I didn't agree to this. You know, what happened to the Second Amendment? What happened to this?
Right.
And from there, I started to get into it. I started watching like Bill Thornton's videos, the common law stuff. And so that taught me a lot. I started listening to guys like Mark Stevens and Carl Lentz. And though I don't do things like all the way like they do, but they started unwinding my mind as far as the difference between a fiction doing something and a real man or woman. And so that the pieces started coming together there for me. And when I came across Robert Fox, who's unfortunately deceased now, I seen how Robert used affidavits to beat the federal district. I mean, to beat the federal, he beat federal crimes 10 times in a row. He beat them, which I think they have like a 99.9% conviction rate, something like that. But he beat them 10 times in a row. And I said, there must be something to this affidavit thing. There's got to be something to this. Then I came across a gentleman named Sam Gross from Texas. And he put together, like he had this idea that basically it's just commercial process. Same thing they do to us. He pretty much did to them. He files an affidavit of fact against them and a notice of claim against them. And so I took that and I sort of ramped that up, what he does, and I added an affidavit of status. Because to me, a lot of what they're doing to us is through presumption. In other words, don't presume that you are a citizen, a resident, a taxpayer. And
don't we technically volunteer for those positions unknowingly? So it's not as if they're just assuming. We are actually, from what I'm understanding, we are volunteering by contracting with these things, even though it's unknowing and it's not disclosed to us.
No, see, I disagree with that whole concept. First of all, I mean, coming through from the music business, I had contract law. I actually had an attorney teach me contract law in college. Listen, contracts have certain elements, and one of them is meeting of the minds, which means full disclosure. So if I'm trying to get you in a contract with me and I don't disclose something really imperative, that probably you would turn around and say, well, I'm not going to enter this contract with you. If I withhold that from you, you and I never had a meeting of the minds. There was never an agreement. There was never a contract. I've heard people say this with driver's licenses. Well, that's a contract. No, it's not. First of all, contracts have an offer. I got to offer you something. Hey, man, I'll paint your fence for $500. You accept it. Okay, Alphonse, I'll give you $500. You paint my fence. Mm-hmm. Got to be consideration. My labor for your money, even though we know it's not money, but my labor for your Federal Reserve notes. Okay,
right.
That's element 3. Meeting of the minds we just talked about. If I'm going to paint your fence for $500, and I got a bad batch of paint that I didn't tell you about, and I paint your fence, and the first rain it washes off, we never had a contract. Excuse me.
You're good.
I withheld something from you. Something important. Like you would have never taken that contract if I told you, hey, listen, man, I got this defective batch of paint. That's why I'm only charging you $500. You would tell me, well, you ain't painting my fence. Okay. So we never had a meeting of the minds. And another element with a contract is it's got to be signed by 2 sentient living beings. 2 living beings have to sign a contract. You don't have a contract with your cable company. You don't have a contract with your service, with your water provider or your electric provider. You have service agreements with them, okay? You sign a service agreement. There's nobody on the other side of that. That's why they'll never sue you in court. Or if they do try and sue you in court, you can knock them out of the box so easy. It's unbelievable because there's nobody on the other side to enforce the contract, okay? Right. And so when people say, like I said, I butt heads with a lot of people on this. But listen, I understand contract law, and these are not contracts. And I've heard people say, well, what do they call them? Adhesion contracts. They'll call them. You know, these are no, nothing. There's no adhesion contract to you. I can't deceive you to come into an agreement with me. If I've deceived you, we never had a meeting in the minds. Me and you never had a contract. So,
yeah, but there is honor in the system that they recognize that.
Because I'm not saying there's any honor in their system.
Because the thing, Alphonse, is like I've been I started studying the sovereignty stuff back maybe late 90s, but there really wasn't a lot of information available. And I would kind of come back to it, but again, not a lot of information available. And it was within the beginning of last year that I really started going really hardcore down the path because the information just started, you know, I found that it was there where it kind of sidetracked out of my mind. It wasn't something. And then I've been on this path. So I've been trying to learn as much as I can. Like you mentioned a plethora of people. So it's like we're standing on the shoulder of giants, and I'm trying to learn from all these different people. And I told you, like, in addition to getting to know you, one of the things, and we'll elaborate on it a little bit more, but one of the things I'm trying to do is pull together individuals and groups that have the same mindset of basically getting the dominion that we're supposed to have and taking away the jurisdictional power away from these governance over us as sovereign, self-governing individuals. So, and, you know, as we talked before we started recording, as you agreed, there's definitely more than one way for people to be able to achieve these end results. There's several paths for people to take. So I really have a problem with some of these groups and individuals, and I'm not going to call anybody out. It's more than some of the ones that we talked about, but are saying that their way is the only way and not being open-minded enough. And the idea of forming together this alliance or council where people can exchange information and we can benefit each other and strengthen numbers, because when enough people take a stand, nothing can stand against the people.
Yeah, let's touch on a couple of things you were talking about. And listen, people get overwhelmed with this. Oh, the common law, what's this? What do I got to study? Oh, I got to learn this, I got to learn that. Let's break it down to pretty basic. And maybe this is why people are catching on to the stuff I'm doing, because listen, I always joke around that my documents are Barney Rubble documents. Fred take ball, Barney want ball back. These are the kind, number one, Fred take ball. Number two, Barney want ball back. These are just the basic, I'm not going to give any space in there for that attorney, that petty fogger shyster attorney, to go in there and move. Like, they'll try and hide within certain things within your sentences. Or they'll try
to misinterpret it, or they'll interpret it in their fashion, which is misinterpreting what you're trying to say. So the least amount of words that you use to get your point across, the better.
Brevity is your friend. You know what I mean? In other words, don't group things together in paragraphs. Because here's the problem with paragraphs. If I state that you are in Philadelphia at this date and I tried to contact you this date, if one of them is true, and I have this in a writing, whether it's an affidavit or a pleading that you would put in a court, if one of them is true and the other one's not true, you could deny the entire thing, because it's not a true statement. So you don't compound sentences together. And this is a bad habit that people have. Don't compound sentences together. That's one of the things the jurisdictionary course taught me, is one sentence, one verb, one thought per number. So that if one thing's denied, that doesn't mess up the second thing or the third thing or the fourth thing. So you write with brevity. And let's keep it, this is how basic this stuff really is.
You said write with brevity?
Brevity.
Okay. Brevity,
yeah. Don't be wordy and and don't use big words in this. And like I said, Fred take ball, Barney want ball back. That's pretty much and you laugh about that, but we knocked the New Jersey Tax Bureau out for a nurse that I was working with that was trying to extort $1,200 of money from her. We sent her one of these Barney Rubble documents. Hey, I don't know no taxpayer. We said, dear taxpayer. Hey, I don't know no taxpayer. I don't understand. Your document signed by the New Jersey Tax Bureau. Is that a he or a she? I don't know who that is. Oh, by the way, in your document, you're making a lot of threats against me in here. So all kinds of threats in this document. You know what? I'm looking at this. This looks like mail fraud to me. Looks like you're attempting to force me to contract with somebody because they wanted to get insurance. You're forcing me to contract with somebody in an attempt to extort money from me. This is mail fraud. Oh, by the way, here I've reported this mail fraud. Here's a copy of the document that I've reported. She sent that to the New Jersey Tax Bureau. 5 days later, they sent her a 1095 form stating basically the 1095 form was from a union that she was a member of 10 years ago that she never had health insurance with. Yet it came from the union, the 1095 form, which was her get out of jail free card. She didn't have to fight. She didn't have to pay the penalty for not having insurance. So once they seen the Barney Rubble affidavit and the mail fraud document, they went, "Ooh, this is not the average monkey. Give her the 1095 form. 1095 form. Make her go away." Okay. So as I said, write with brevity. You know, it's not. I see people write these 50-page documents. Don't do that. First of all, nobody's going to read it. I'm going to tell you, nobody's going to read those things. A page, couple pages, you know. If you're making an affidavit, you're making points. You don't need to be wordy on it. Just hit the points you have to hit.
Right.
Now let's talk about documents. Listen, let's come to an agreement. Are we all created equal?
I think so.
Okay.
I believe we are. It's supposed
Do
to
I
be
have
that way.
do I have any more rights than you?
If we're created equal, no.
Okay. Can somebody else, if we're all created equal, can somebody else assign me a title or a position that gives me rights over you?
Not technically.
The answer is no. I mean,
Right.
they can't.
Right. Well, but it's happening in the world regardless.
I agree with you. No, I agree with you. It's happening. But you and I know logically, if we're all created equal,
Right.
well,
No one has the authority to point authority unto another person, have more authority than another person because we're all equal.
you've got to possess the authority yourself. I mean, it's a maxim of law. You've got to possess the authority yourself in order to impart the authority upon somebody else. Okay. That's just a maxim of law. So we know that we're all created equal. So if we're all created equal and this group of 100 people get together and they call themselves a legislature and they start writing stuff down on paper called laws, statutes, codes, and ordinances, do those 100 people have any more rights than the one? Remember, we're in a republic. We still live in a republic. So that's why you keep hearing the politicians say, "Oh, it's democracy." No, we're not in a democracy. Democracy is basically that's you want to talk about 51 always beats 49 in a democracy. Okay?
Right.
That's a tyranny.
Mob rules is what.
Mob rule.
Yeah.
It's mob rule. So we're in a republic, which means the one has just as many rights as the 100 as a group. Just because they keep adding people in there, it doesn't mean for every member they add to their legislature, it doesn't give them any more power over you. So if we come to that realization, this is common sense, and we know this. So it doesn't matter what they write down on a piece of paper. If they can write something down on a piece of paper and make it apply to me and you, well, then we would have to be their property, wouldn't we?
And that goes back to a lot of what Christopher James says. So that was kind of something I wanted to ask you since you guys have been talking and you're in the common law element together. He's in Canada, you're in the United States. Are you seeing the systems of what you guys have to do to be the same? Or are there little differences because of the different nations?
Believe it or not, they're very similar. There's just slight differences. Okay. I mean, I've seen guys use my stuff in Bulgaria. A guy used my stuff in 2 court hearings in Bulgaria and knocked them out. So like people say, well, our laws are different than yours. Yeah, they are. But remember what we're doing here with these affidavits, you're actually entering into a commercial process. When you file affidavits and claims against somebody, it's really a commercial process that you're doing. Okay. So it doesn't really matter what the laws are because the laws of commerce are the same in Bulgaria as they are in the United States of America. Doesn't matter what they all run on the UCC stuff. You know, the law of merchant stuff.
Yeah, the maritime admiralty.
Right. So if the document can apply to me, if somebody writes something down and they make it a document apply to me, then I got to be their property, which I'm not. And the only other way a document can apply to me is by way of contract. It's got to be. It's the only way a document can apply to somebody. And we just talked about the elements of a contract. Okay. Listen, that little birth certificate trick they did at birth. Okay. All that is evidence of fraud. That doesn't give them any authority over you. All that's an illegal trust that they set up. Okay. Because listen, you can set a trust up for somebody as long as they're the beneficiary. because the beneficiary has no duties to the trust. In other words, they don't have to perform for the trust. But you can't set a trust up for somebody and then claim that they're the trustee responsible for performing for the trust.
Right.
That's what they're doing, okay, so, with that all cap name. That's unlawful. It's illegal. It's both legal and unlawful. It's illegal in their system, and it's unlawful just by the common law of the nation or of the world. There's a lot of countries that move by common law. That's unlawful what they set up. And no one will ever state in a court of law that we own your birth certificate or we own this trust. You're never, ever, ever going to hear them say that, because if they opened their mouth up and said that in a court hearing, you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against them for fraud, what they did.
Right.
Because I never granted you authority, and your mother never. First of all, I hear people say, it drives me crazy, your mother signed you away at birth. That's a horrible thing to say about your mother. But I heard people say that.
Like everybody's like your parents did it unknowingly, so they're trying to act as if they did this, but they didn't do it maliciously. They didn't have ill intent with it.
Let's defeat that too. That's more nonsense. That's more, I call patriot lore. That's more nonsense. Okay. In other words, let me explain this to you. Can I sign a contract for you with somebody else?
Can you sign a contract for me and somebody else unless you have power of attorney? No.
Exactly. Unless you have power of attorney. Okay. Well, did you grant your mom and dad power of attorney?
Nope.
Okay. So anything your mom and dad signed in relation to you really has no relation to you by law, because you have no personal knowledge of that document that was signed. You don't know if that's a contract that's binding to you, which they're sort of claiming it is. Well, there was never an offer made to you. You never accepted the offer. There was no consideration exchange. There's no meeting of the minds, because, my God, you don't even know you're alive right now. Okay, so there's no meeting of the minds, and you didn't sign anything. So whatever your mom and dad signed as the birth certificate is a meaningless document. Okay, and that birth certificate, the only one that could actually testify to that birth certificate is the people were there that signed it, or the doctor that was there when it was signed. But other than that, that document, that certificate of live birth, or that birth certificate, is nothing but hearsay. It's nothing but hearsay. No, you can't bring it into court and testify to it, because in order to testify in court to any document or any matter, a witness must have personal knowledge of the matter. Okay? That means firsthand personal knowledge. Somebody was there when that thing was signed.
Right.
Well, listen, my age, a lot of our parents are passed away, unfortunately, and most likely the doctors probably passed away, and I wouldn't know where to find them anyway, okay? So there's nobody that could come into court and testify that birth certificate or certificate of live birth has any relation to me in any way, okay? It really doesn't. That's a document they created. Great, you created a document, good for you. What's it got to do with me?
Right.
Because if you're saying it, this certificate of live birth or something applies to me, well, then I've got to be your property. And I'm pretty sure that I think we sort of outlawed slavery. I'm not sure right now when I look around at people wearing masks in cars and jogging with masks. I mean, I see a lot of slaves running around, okay? It's like, I don't know, a lot of people have enslaved themselves. But there's no way they could take that document and apply it to me. It's impossible.
I feel you, man. And it's not, I'm going to say this, it's not just your accent here that's making me think this, but you really, with the way that you're talking, some of the things that's coming out of your mouth, it really does remind me of Carl Lentz. He's been on my show before. He's a really cool dude. He's a cool dude. He's a cool dude, but he's such an ass at the same time. Yeah, I'm not saying that you're an ass. I'm just saying you've got a very similar way of looking at things and saying things, and I appreciate it.
Gosh, to me, like my cousin Vinny, when he's in the cell with the kid, and he shows him the playing card. He said the prosecutor's going to show you the playing card. He's going to show you it's long, it's broad, but he's not going to show you this. You know that there's nothing, there's no depth to it, and that's their case. Everything they move against you, it looks like this, like the brick that my cousin that Vinny said. You know, look, it's long, it's broad. Look, we have all this authority over you until you turn it this way, and you look at it that way, and you go, oh. There's no depth to anything they're doing. And that's really what this stuff is. When someone makes a claim against you, well, look at it this way. My body, my information, my genetic material, that's my property. Same thing with you. Your body, your information, your genetic material are your property. Anything that you own and that you claim is yours, that you're not challenged on, is your property, okay? I'm not saying you can't go out and claim a city block. Like, hey, this block's mine. You know, I'm talking within reason that this property's mine.
Right.
This vehicle's mine, okay? I can claim that, and I can prove it. I can prove ownership. So as long as I do that, I stand solid, especially when I put that stuff down in an affidavit. Because affidavits, they can only be rebutted by the party they're served to, and an affidavit must be rebutted point for point. So if I put 10 points in an affidavit, and you
rebut every 10 points.
Yeah, rebut all 10 points, or else the other 8 are good.
But if you put them all in one point and and you really have different things, they can knock it all out in one swing because you separate them into separate points.
Then you're going to see legal gymnastics by the attorney. He's going to weave in and out of that paragraph. And like you said, he's going to answer what he wants to answer. Okay.
Right.
And he's going to ignore the things that are bad for him. He's going to go after, in that big paragraph, he's going to go after the points that are beneficial to him that he can attack. And the ones that are beneficial to you, he's not even going to address. I've seen it over and over again with these attorneys. Okay. I've seen attorneys. This is what stuns me with these attorneys. I had one of the top solicitors in this area. He's the one that got me started in this. He filed this fraudulent suit against me.
I'm sharing. I'm just doing a screen share just so you know what's going on.
He filed this forged suit against me. Now he's one of the top solicitors in the area. Well, at first I was sort of on my heels because this is all new to me. I always say it's like this. You know, you can train all you want. You can study all you want. You can train all you want. Like if you're a boxer, you can train for years and spar for years. But the first time you get in the ring and somebody clocks you in the head, everything you just learned goes out the window, okay? In other words, now you're in a fight, and now you got to scramble, and you got to hope that what you trained will come to you naturally, you know?
Right, because you're going on instinct at that point, regardless of what people want to say. That's where fighters train to get themselves to where the instinct does what they're learning in their training.
And that's what this is. That's exactly what this stuff is. In other words, you need to eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. This is not stuff you print off the internet, a document you bring into court, because that's just going to get you in trouble. Because the guy in the black dress is going to ask you one question, and he's going to knock you out because you're not going to be able to know what's on your document or explain it or support it.
Right.
So yeah, you've got to live, eat, and sleep this stuff. This is not a hobby. This has to be.
I'm feeling you, man. I've been going pretty hardcore. I mean, I've interviewed Anna von Reitz a couple times, Russell J. Gould a couple times, had Carl Lentz on. I've been speaking with David Straits. I had Dean Clifford's brother, Darren Clifford, on with his new group, Divergence. So I've been bringing on as many different people in addition to the other content that I cover. I had Jesse Casanova from Earth United, Christopher James. So, and that's where we'll kind of get into in a little bit some of the things that I'm trying to do on the back end. I want people to make sure, and I meant to do a screen share earlier. I was just so wrapped up in our conversation. I'm really enjoying this. I want people to go check your YouTube channel out. I'd like to get the subscriber number out. You're putting out some good information, and people definitely need to check it out. So links are going to be down below. And then also your webpage, which I'll have linked. And based off the webpage address, I just wanted to ask you one simple question.
Sure.
And I'm going to assume the answer is yes, but since your website is has sent me to you, and I am is a representation for God, a source, would you say that you're a spiritual man and spirituality is a strong part of your research and what's going on in these elements of law?
Absolutely. It's funny. I went to a Catholic school growing up. I'm probably the most unreligious person you'll ever meet. Okay. The only time you're going to find
That's why I use the word spiritual.
Yeah. Only time you're going to find me at church is for a funeral or a wedding. Okay. But when I started getting drug into this stuff with this lawsuit they got filed against me, walking the dogs one day, and I said, talking to the creator, because listen, I know there's a creator, you know, I no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's a creator. And I said, listen, I want one thing before I leave this earth. Make me truly free. Give me the knowledge, not make me. Give me the knowledge to be able to get myself truly free. And I'll help as many people as I can. You know, and that's what I've been doing, basically. I'm going to help as many people as I can. And the name for the website, that sort of, it's funny because to me, that event where that came from between Moses and the creator, that directly relates to what's going on today. Because when Moses went up the mountain to meet the creator, and the creator basically introduced himself as I am who I am. In other words, I'm the creator. I created all this.
Right. I am.
I am. I don't have any. I am.
Because everything emanates from source. So everything is source. So I am.
I am, right? And then when Moses said to him, well, what do I tell the people who sent me? What do I tell them? What's your, because Moses wanted to attach a human name to him, one of their names.
Yeah, they wanted to define what creator source was, and that kind of limits us in our perspective of when we define what creator God source is. It limits what the possibility of what it actually is, because we're defining it, and when you define something, you're boxing it in.
Exactly. Now, in other words, God would not let him attach a human name to him, just like the all caps name. Don't they attach an all caps name to you and control you? Notice God said, you're not going to define me. Notice you're not going to, like you said, if they put you in a box, you're not going to take one of your names, whatever, and attach it to me. So he said to him, you tell him, I am has sent me to you. In other words, I'm the creator. I made all this. That's all you need to know. You're not going to put me in a box with a name like they do with us with the all caps name. They're trying to put you in a box. Oh, there's this trust and you're a citizen, you're a resident, you're a taxpayer. They're trying to, what they do, when you attach a name to somebody, a title or a name to somebody, what you're doing and what they're doing to us is they're reducing your status. In other words, you have the creator, you have man, you have government, and government was created to protect our rights. That's why they created governments, to protect individual rights. And governments created corporations. So you have this 4-tier thing going on. When they call you a defendant, or they call you a taxpayer or a resident, what they're doing is they're taking you from man and they're bringing you all the way down to the lowest rung under them. Okay.
I believe there's scripture that even mentions something about not taking titles and things like
that.
Yeah. I'm not sure the exact verse. I definitely need to be brushing up on my skills in that area. And that's something that I've been needing to focus on. And the best term to use has just been Godsmacked, because it just, as much as I try to set God to the side, God just keeps putting itself back in front of me. And it's like, this is a big part of what you're doing. So I need to be included.
Yeah, it's funny because when I sort of, like I said, I'm not religious, but I talk to the creator every day. Usually when I walk the dog 3 times a day. I have a conversation almost the entire time. Just things, talking. I'm not talking out in the open, but I'm just in my mind. I'm having this little conversation. And I can't explain how many times I got pushed into a matter I didn't want to be involved in. Because I'm thinking, oh, hell, here this goes. This is going to take more time. I don't want to be dealing with this. But by getting forced into that situation, I got skill sets that I would have had, because I had to learn new things that I would have never learned had I not got pushed into that matter.
Right.
Now, when weird things happen to me, things that I would first perceive as being, bad for me or against me, I remember the past things where I remember the last time I thought this was a bad thing, and geez, look what I learned from it. I learned this, I learned that. So I don't take it as a defeat anymore or like a negative. It's basically something that's put in my way that I'm supposed to go through, because I got to learn something more to get even better at what I'm doing. And so I look at it as I sort of stop trying to look at things as being bad or good, because you never know if something's bad or good until after the fact down the line and you look back at it. Then you could judge whether it's bad or good. But at the time something happens to you, the first instinct we have as men and women, if we perceive something as being bad right away, we sort of bow on it, and we don't do what we're supposed to do, and we treat it as a negative event.
It's putting that negative frequency out.
Absolutely. And
it
sort of started looking at, like, maybe there's a reason this is here for me in front of me. Maybe this is to make me better, as far as to move me through this. Because once I picked up these little skill sets from these little odd things that happened to me, all the pieces of the puzzle started coming together for me. And I started seeing what I could call the matrix. I know, geez, Mr. Attorney, when he walks in court, I'm a nightmare for Mr. Attorney when he walks in court. Because first thing happens when an attorney comes into court, everybody enters their appearance, okay, before the judge. I'm here representing so-and-so. I'm here representing so-and-so. As soon as he opens his mouth and he says he's here representing the sewer authority, objection. Is there a principal here that hired this guy? Because remember, he's only an agent, isn't he? Mr. Attorney's an agent. So a principal must have hired him. Well, I need to know who the man or woman is that's responsible for hiring this guy. And he's instinctively going to say, well, I work for the sewer authority and the board hired me. When I need you to bring the board in here. I need somebody from the board to come in here and testify up on the stand here that they hired you. Because what you're doing is you're committing crimes against me and you're causing harm and damage to me. I need to know who instructed you to do this to me. Because really, nobody instructed him, okay? Right. He's operating under his own accord. Now Mr. Attorney's in a real bad position. And I did this when an attorney even through discovery request, the sewer authority. He didn't know what to do. I'm like, you got, one of my discovery questions was, do you have any personal knowledge of anything you filed in this matter or any statements you've made? And here's what the attorney said. Well, at all times I've had authority to act for the sewer authority, and the administrator at all times has had knowledge, not personal knowledge, knowledge. So now he implicated the administrator from the sewer authority. And I walk him down the line. I send her an email. Hey, Miss So-and-so, have to let you know this. Mr. Sheridan, the attorney representing you, he just implicated you in crimes. Do you want to distance yourself from this? I need to know because I'm going to wind up filing criminal complaints and I'm going to file a judicial claim against a substantial judicial claim against Mr. Attorney. Do you want to remove yourself from this? In the spirit of godliness, right? Being God, I'm giving you an opportunity to step away. But instinctively, what they do is they ignore you because the attorney tells them, ignore him, don't pay attention. Great. Well, now, when I move you through this process, you can't say, I said, hey, didn't I give you a chance to get out of this? I gave you an opportunity. You didn't take it. In other words, so I had no other option but to move against you because you're making unfounded claims against me.
Right.
So when you start doing this, you start to snare everybody in. Now, Mr. Attorney, you take the hearing that's about you and you make it about Mr. Attorney. Because Mr. Attorney can't bring a principal in to so I could say, listen, just give me an affidavit from somebody from the board. I need a name on there. Who hired you? Because once I get that name, then I can subpoena the name on that affidavit and bring that guy in court and say, listen, this guy's committed crimes against me. He's falsified documents against me, and he's got no basis for anything he's doing. Did you hire this man to do this to me? What guy's going to say, yep, I'm the guy. I told him to commit these crimes against you. No, they want nothing to do with you. Nobody's ever going to step forward and say, I hired Mr. Attorney. So now you've got a guy out there on an island. Mr. Attorney is out there on an island. So now I got him. There's no proof of his agency. So now let's go after him because the second weakest link in every chain is the attorney. The first weakest link is your local people, your county people, your borough, your township people. They're button pushers, okay? They get these jobs. Somebody tells them, you do this, you do that. That's all they know, okay? Right. You ask them a legal question, like a deer in the headlights, okay? Oh, you got to ask the attorneys. I've had them over and over. They say this to me. You got to talk to the attorneys. I said, are your attorneys making claims against me? Why would I talk to your attorneys? The attorney's just a private contractor for the county or the borough or the township. So when you're making claims against me and I ask you, I'm calling you on your BS here and I'm saying, hey, can you support your claims? You say, well, you got to go talk to the attorney. That's like telling me you got to go talk to the guy who cuts my grass or my tiling contractor or my mechanic. Why would I go talk to another contractor you're contracting with if he's got no involvement in my business? He's not involved in my property. He's not involved in this matter. As a matter of fact, he's got no jurisdiction in this matter. He's got no legal standing in the matter, which means he's not a damaged or injured party to be involved in this matter. And worst of all, even according to their rules, he's got no personal knowledge of the matter. We talked about personal knowledge. A witness must have personal knowledge. So if he's not a witness and he's submitting claims into the court, everything he files into the court against you or states against you verbally is factually hearsay. Because he can't walk up on that stand and testify that what he wrote down or what he stated, he has personal knowledge of. So he's not a witness. So now we've taken care of Mr. Attorney to this degree. Is the county, is the sewer authority going to come into court and testify? Am I going to see any? First of all, they're seeing what's going on with Mr. Attorney right now. They're seeing Mr. Attorney's going through the ringer with me. Is anybody from the sewer authority going to walk into court after seeing what I'm already doing to Mr. Attorney and come in and testify against me? and make claims against me? No.
Right.
Nobody's coming in. So if there's no witnesses over here, there's no facts, okay? So when I submit affidavits into the matter, and we're at this hearing, I'll do the slick Robert Fox trick I learned. Listen, it's my understanding that I'm to tell the truth in all matters here. And having so qualified my testimony, I now take my affidavit and submit it into the court record in full, as I've stated in full, and state that everything in my affidavit is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth for the record. So now I just took my out-of-court testimony, my affidavit, which you got to put it on the record, okay? Even if you file an affidavit into a proceeding, it's not in the court record yet. It's only on the docket. So you got to either read it on the court record, or you got to do that little Robert Fox trick. I just basically took my entire affidavit and submitted it in. So now the only person has facts on the record is me. Okay, I'm the only one with the affidavit that's made under penalty of perjury. It says right on there, made under penalty of perjury, and it's certified by a state official, the notary. She signed it, so everything's notarized, everything's official. And this guy over here, we can't figure out who hired him yet. We don't know who hired him. He can't prove who hired this guy yet, and we know factually that everything he's submitting is hearsay because he's got no personal knowledge of anything. So now Mr. Attorney's starting to go down a slippery slope, but I'm just starting to have fun with Mr. Attorney. Because next, I'm going to teach you something that not a lot of people know, that I learned off of Randy Kelton and Brett Fountain. They got a great radio show out in Texas called The Rule of Law Radio.
What's the name of the show, and what's the name of the guys?
It's Randy Kelton, Kelton,
okay,
and Brett Fountain, just like Fountain, Brett Fountain. And the show's called The Rule of Law Radio.
Rule of Law Radio. Cool.
Highly recommend it. Okay. Now, me and Randy butt heads on a lot of things, but Randy's taught me, he's given me some really good tools to work with.
Yeah, but you made a good point. You don't have to agree with everybody about everything in order for you to find those common bonds and work together and learn from one another.
No, listen, I was on the radio with Randy and we butted heads, and Randy was like sort of criticizing me and sort of like felt bad about criticizing. I said, Randy, there's nothing you could say to me that's going to hurt my feelings, okay? There's not, listen, I have a lot of respect for you. I've learned a ton of stuff from you. There's nothing you're going to say to me. We may beg to differ, okay? That's all.
Yeah. Well, if you're from Southwest Philly, man, I get the kind of person you are, or the kind of people you are.
Nah, you're not going to hurt my feelings. But Randy taught me something really cool, which I never knew about. And this is something for your listeners to learn, to have fun, basically. Now we sort of learned how to challenge Mr. Attorney. We go after his agency. Where's the principal? And number two, do you have any personal knowledge of anything you filed into this hearing or any statements you made? No. So now you've crippled him in two ways. Can't prove why he's there, and he can't prove that he's got personal knowledge of anything. But now let's ring his insurance bell. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go file a bar grievance against Mr. Attorney, okay?
File a what?
Bar grievance.
Bar grievance, okay.
Bar grievance. To the complaint, basically.
Right. A complaint against the Bar Association for him individually.
Yep. And up on my site, there's a document called in the Be Free folder. It's in the document section under Be Free. And you want to download the one, it's the most common rules attorneys violate. And you want to download the Texas version. Okay.
Do you download stuff without logging in, or do you have to? Because I just came across your website today.
Yeah, you got to. I hate to say the word. You got to register.
Okay.
I hate to use that word, but you have to register, and that's just so I can keep.
Well, just sign up. Just sign. You don't have to be right.
Yeah.
Just sign up.
Yeah, I'm not using your information. I'm not selling your information. Like, I don't have time to sell your information. All right. No, it's just to log in.
Okay.
So you want to get the Be Free document in the Be Free folder. You want to get the most common offenses from attorneys. And you want to get the Texas version because that's the most complete version, okay?
So here's the Be Free folder. Is it, I guess I wouldn't, I guess you can access it without logging in. Did you know that?
No, that's cool. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Just in case you didn't know. I'm just exploring myself. So you
I
said.
wonder if it'll let you download it though. You know, you might be able to wonder. I don't know.
Yeah, that may be the case. I'll try. I can see what happens, but this is the one you're talking about. What most Texas attorneys commonly violate. Yeah, let me see what happens. Yeah, I can't. So it's got a block on it, but at least lets me see what it is and what's available. So it gives an idea of how much information is there.
And what's cool about that document, that was done by Brett from Randy's show. And listen, he filed 25 bar grievances last month. Just last month, he filed 25 bar grievances. So what's that tell you? These are effective because we've seen attorneys disappear. and we've seen cases go away with bar grievances. Now let's look at the bar grievances. First of all, he's going to have the most common. You want to go for your state, go download the rules of professional conduct, I think it's called, for most states. Each state will have rules of professional conduct. That really relates to the attorney, okay? And you're just going to take what Brett's got there for Texas and just do searches for the key words in there in your code, in your document, because you're going to find matching things. Might be different numbers, but it's all pretty much the same stuff. It's going to be the same stuff. Then you go file a bar grievance against Mr. Attorney. Now, people say, well, why would you do that? Because it's going to get sent to his buddies who are bar members also. And you're right. I'm going to send my bar grievance in, and his buddies, his attorney buddies, they're going to get my bar grievance, and they're going to tear it up in 1,000 pieces, and they're going to throw it in the trash. And I'm going to get a sweet little letter back from the Bar Association that says, Mr. Faggiolo, we've looked into your matter, and we've determined that it's frivolous. Okay, it has no merit. Great, thank you very much, Bar. Because here's what you don't know what's happening. In his indemnity policy, his insurance policy, these attorneys, and I was taught this by someone who taught attorneys about their insurance. In their indemnity insurance policy, when they get a bar grievance filed against them, they got to pick up the phone and call the insurance company and say, I had a bar grievance filed against me. Because the insurance company wants to know what's going on. Because a lot of times, what's going to file maybe a bar grievance? A lawsuit. Okay, so the insurance company wants to be alert to what's going on. So when you ding his bell, okay, you're probably going to send his rates up. Just that bar grievance alone is going to send his rates up. You're not going to know it because that letter you get back from the bar, it's going to be a defeatist letter. Like I had a guy do it. He said, "Oh, I must have did something wrong." I said, "No, you did exactly right." I said, "They sent you the cookie cutter letter they sent out that it's got no merit, sir. Your bar grievance has no merit." I said, "What you don't see is you just dinged the insurance bell for that attorney. He had a report that he got a bar grievance filed against him."
They have to report that 100%. Okay.
Yeah, they have to.
Why do they have that? I didn't know lawyers, attorneys had to have insurance. Why?
They got to have insurance for all matters. You can't be a public official or operate in the public without being bonded.
Okay, a bonded insurance. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense now that you're explaining.
You can cause harm to somebody.
You see, everything you're explaining to me sounds like general law stuff, not where people are going. And I do want to ask your opinions on equity and trust and stuff, but you're speaking like, I know it's not common law, but it sounds like what you would think is common law. It's like you're just dealing with the very meat and potatoes of the basics. It sounds
right. We're going to take Mr. Attorney's Achilles heel and we're just going to keep shooting arrows at it, okay? Because now he's got a bar grievance against him. And here's what Randy tells me. If you're a first-year attorney and you get one bar grievance filed against you that year, you lose your insurance. Can't be an attorney no more. If you're an experienced
one bar grievance,
that's what Randy tells me. Yeah, first-year attorney, one bar grievance, you're gone. Okay,
first-year attorney. What if you're beyond that? What if you're 2, 3, 4 years in?
If you're an experienced attorney, you get 2 bar grievances filed against you, you're probably going to lose your insurance.
Okay.
If you're a law firm and you get 3 bar grievances filed against you, the law firm, they're going to lose their insurance. Okay. Now here's the fun part of this. When I file the bar grievance against the attorney, if he's part of a partnership, which a lot of these attorneys are, they come from these partnerships. I'm not only going to file a bar grievance against the attorney, I'm going to file it against each of his partners because they're responsible for him. They're responsible to make sure that he's supposed to be doing, following the law, following the Constitution, and following their rules. So they're responsible for letting this guy out in the public to do these things.
Like a check and balance system.
Absolutely. If they let this guy free, you're responsible. It's like you having a crazy kid and letting him out and he causes $100,000 of damage. You're going to be responsible for it. It's the same thing with them. That's their kid, basically, okay? They're sanctioning his actions. They better know what he's doing.
Right.
Now think about what's going on here. Say this is over a stupid traffic ticket. Now I got him already in trouble. I got the bar grievance against him. This might be a $143 traffic ticket, which I'm going through now, which I just did this with a judge, okay? But so now he's got a bar grievance filed against him, and the partners have bar grievances filed against them that are going to it's going to ring the bell of the insurance company. Do you think those partners are very happy that they got a bar grievance filed against them because of what this guy did? Oh, no.
No.
They're going to go to him and say, what the hell's going on with this guy? He just bar grieved all of us. That could affect our insurance. We could lose our insurance. Now, all of a sudden, Mr. Attorney might go, I'm going to let him go. I'm going to get away from this guy because he's a little dangerous, what he's doing.
That's interesting, though, because it's, I mean, you're not going through, like, the way that you explained it. I mean, I love it. It's just a totally different approach than I've heard anybody take. Just going with the principle. I've never heard it before. So I appreciate the people that you've learned this information from and customized it and progressed it. It's awesome.
Now we're not done yet. We're going to read more from this attorney, okay? Now that's a simple bar grievance. Now, what's our power over them?
I'm really starting to feel sorry for this attorney, man. I'm getting a little sympathetic for this person.
And what's one thing an attorney will never answer? An affidavit.
I don't know.
He's never going to answer an affidavit. When you submit an affidavit against him, he may answer it, but he's not going to answer it by way of affidavit. Remember, an affidavit can only be answered by the person it's submitted against or get served to, and it must be rebutted point for point by an affidavit. In other words, he can't take my affidavit and write me a letter addressing matters in there if it's not.
He has to rebut it with another affidavit that covers each point and everything individually.
Right. His letter, if he just writes me a letter and it's not done under penalty of perjury before like a notary or something, that's not a response. It's a meaningless response because it's not a rebuttal. In other words, the affidavit stands as fact. So now when he starts sending me letters, I kick it back to him, Mr. Attorney, you're an experienced lawyer. You know that affidavits can only be responded by affidavits. I'm going to need an affidavit from you. You sent me a letter. This is meaningless. This is hearsay. I need you to put your balls on the line here and swear under penalty of perjury and rebut my affidavit. He's not going to do that, okay? Now, with that affidavit I send to him, and here's where his life really starts to get complicated, I'm going to give him my affidavit of status, which we talked about earlier, because we talked about presumptions. I remove all presumptions in my affidavit of status.
So your affidavit of status is something that somebody might do as like a status change, like something like the American citizen route or what American States Assembly is doing with their state citizen, state national route.
Yeah, but I don't go through, you got to send it to this person and that person. I don't go through all.
But it's something comparable. That's what I was trying to get the understanding of.
Yeah, and there's a section up there for affidavit of status you can download from the site too. You can get up there, and that's like here's the funny part. When you see the download numbers on the documents on that site, times them by 10, okay? Because at first, when I put this up after the Crow Show, I was using WooCommerce to distribute documents because I'm not a website designer. That's the only way I could figure out how to distribute them. And they were zero. I wasn't charging anybody anything. But when I figured out a more elegant solution and I got it up there was about 90% of the documents have pretty much been downloaded already, okay? So when you see the numbers on there, times it by 10. That'll give you an idea how many times those documents were downloaded.
That's awesome. So, and you're providing it all for free. You're not. There's no paywall when you sign up and log in. Okay, I just want to clarify that because I heard you mention that before, and I wanted to stress that.
That comes from the conversation I had with the creator.
Not that I dismiss anybody who needs to make a living and needs to pay their bills either, because everybody has a different situation. But I appreciate your method.
No, like you said, when I promised the creator, I'll help as many people as I can. Listen, if somebody came to me and said, listen, I'm in this bad situation. And I said, well, give me $1,000 or I'm going to let you fry. To me, that's an attorney. That's horrible to do to somebody.
Yeah.
If that information can help you, I'm going to help you. That's it. If I have the time to help you. Sadly, now I don't have the time to help a lot of individual people because I get about 200 emails a day. Okay. So there's not a lot of time left here.
I'm right there with you, man. I feel you. And I do, like I said before, I really appreciate you offering your time for this because I know how busy you are. I know how everything is. And I'm just, appreciate. I just want to let you know how appreciative I am of that.
No problem. And listen, when with the affidavit of status, it's pretty basic. And it's really based on the Constitution. It states that my rights come from my creator. They don't come from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania or the Township of Aston. My rights come from my creator.
Natural law.
Natural law. And it sort of puts them in their place, what their position is and what binds them. It basically states, hey, guess what, guys? Here's where you're bound. In other words, the Constitution does not bind me and you. Okay? The Constitution was written for one reason, to protect our God-given rights, to secure our God-given rights. The Constitution does not grant you and I rights. And it drives me crazy when I hear people say, I have the constitutional right. The Constitution grants me this right. No, the Constitution don't grant you any rights. Your creator granted you rights.
It just secures those rights that you were already granted.
That Constitution's a rule book for these organized crime that are calling them your government. This is organized crime you're dealing with, basically, these local people. That's a rule book for them. They got to follow that rule book. You know, and when they step out of that rule book, well, now we're going to have some fun with them, okay? So we give them the affidavit of status. We want to remove all presumptions. We don't want to be the all-cap name, the trust, like the unlawful trust they set up that we don't even know about or not supposed to know about. We just remove ourselves from that in that affidavit of status. We don't mention the trust, but we declare that we're a flesh and blood man. With my rights come from my creator. Well, I can, even in their trust system, then I can only be the beneficiary in that situation. I can't be the trustee. I can only be the beneficiary in this system. So when I give them the affidavit of status, then for this matter, I do what's called an affidavit of fact, which just addresses this individual matter. And I'm going to start to take apart the problems Mr. Attorney has with this matter. Number one, if it's a criminal matter, I'm going to guarantee there's probably no probable cause. I mean, there's no victim. There's no crime here. There's no corpus delicti.
Right. No victim, no crime.
No victim, no crime. If it's a civil matter, I don't see any verified claim before the court from a party that stated I owe them money or did something, and they verified it with their signature. Mr. Attorney can't do that. No one from the county is going to do that. So now I start to take his case apart, that affidavit of fact, and everything he did wrong, I'm going to put in that affidavit of fact. I'm also going to take the document he sent me, or the court sent me, from Mr. Attorney, and I'm going to take every element on that document, I'm going to circle it, and I'm going to number it. And I just did it with a traffic ticket. It's one page. I found 25 elements of fraud on that one page. And I circled them and I numbered them. Then I went through on a separate page. I put number one, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is a corporate fiction. And I don't reside in it. I don't belong to it. I don't live in it. And I just basically mocked them. Basically, I'm exposing the obvious.
Right.
This is not a litigant. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is not a litigant, okay? It's a fiction. It's like Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck you're bringing before me. So I go through and I just take their document apart point for point. And then I put the cherry on top. Because remember we just talked about, you and I, everything we own or claim is our property, right? That we can prove is our property. Well, aren't these people trying to extract money from you and I?
Yeah.
Okay. Can they show any rights to be able to extract money from me? They're not, by the time I get done with the affidavit of fact, I've pretty much taken their case apart. That they're not going to be able to stand on anything. And because you've compromised my estate or your estate, I'm making a financial claim against you. Because what you did is basically you're simulating legal process. Because what you're doing is not real legal process. How they move against traffic tickets and little tax bills. This is not proper legal process that they're moving with you against. They're forging documents against you because Mr. Attorney is claiming that he's going to speak and act for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Well, you and I know the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. There's no Mr. and Mrs. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that's walking into court. So if he's going to claim he's filing a suit for this corporate fiction, that's fraud. Okay, yeah. Fraud is the day is long. Now their system works when they're going against another corporation. When McDonald's is suing Wendy's, it works.
That's what it was designed for.
That's what it's for. That's why that system's set up, because now the two fictions can play with each other and say, I'm suing, I'm representing McDonald's, and the other one says, oh, I'm representing the Wendy's. Great. You guys can have your little pretend trial. Good for you. But when you file that against a man or a woman, now you got a problem. Because even in their twisted system of law, per Rule 602, which is federal, and most states mimic it, Rule 602, a witness must have personal knowledge of the matter to testify to it. Well, I don't see any witness over here. We know the attorney's not a witness. The alleged plaintiff is a fiction. Who's coming over here to testify? There's no witnesses. And without any witnesses in the matter, they can't get facts on the record. The only way facts can get on the record is through testimony. Remember what I do with my affidavit, and I put my affidavit? I'm the only one who got facts on the record.
Right.
Nobody on the other side has put facts on the record. The attorney can't. We know the fiction can't. Well, somebody from the fiction would have to step in and say, I'm representing the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I'm going to take the bullet here. I'm going to state that I have authority over Mr. Faggiolo or whatever. That's not going to happen. especially when they start seeing what you're doing with Mr. Attorney already. You file your notice of claim and you say, hey, Mr. Attorney, I'm going to need $300,000 because you have compromised my property and you've compromised my estate. Remember I told you about the bar agreements? He's got to call the insurance company. Mm-hmm. Mr. Attorney gets my affidavits and my claim, which my affidavits to support my claim. Guess what Mr. Attorney has to do again?
What's that? Make another claim, call the insurance company again?
Make another call to his insurance company. That poor little guy, he's got to tell him, this crazy man just filed a $300,000 claim against me. Now he's got a bar grievance filed against him. The insurance company knows you filed it against him. And he knows you got a $300,000 filed claim against him. Oh, hell, the insurance company says, he's getting sued. There's no doubt about it. He's going to get sued. This guy's lining him up. Bar grievance, notice of claim. He's going to sue him. We're going to eat the cost of this, the insurance company. So now they go to Mr. Attorney and they say, what the hell's going on in this matter with this guy? He's got a bar grievance filed against you. He's got a notice of claim for $300,000 filed against you. You better make sure you have this guy dead to rights, because if he sues you and you lose, we're going to pick up the bill for this. We're not going to be real happy. We may have to drop your insurance, or your insurance rates are going to go up very high, because that's a claim. That's like if you make a claim with your insurance company, most likely your rates are going to go up. This is how it works. Same thing with him. He gets a claim filed against him, his rates are going to go up. Now, Mr. Attorney's, he's not worried about me and you anymore. He's worried about keeping his insurance and his bar card right now, because you're now taking him on a journey he's never seen before. He never seen a monkey do this to them, because we're monkeys. We're all monkeys to them, okay? They tell us what to do, where to go. We're circus monkeys to them. They're not used to the monkeys coming at them. The monkeys run from them. This monkey's running at him, and I'm not done with him, because now he's got a real bad problem with his insurance company, and I could without doubt prove that he broke about 9 or 10 laws in Pennsylvania. Easy to prove. Barratry. Barratry's a vexatious suit. Does Mr. Attorney have any personal knowledge of the suit that he filed against me? No. So if you have no personal knowledge of the suit you filed against me, that's a vexatious suit. That's barratry. What are you doing filing a suit against me? You don't even know what's going on. You can't even prove that the statutes or codes that you're moving under apply to me. Let's look at it this way, too. Here's more of an unwinding of the mind. If it's a traffic citation matter for Mr. Attorney, and it's code 238 or whatever it is, okay? Was Mr. Attorney there when code 238 was written or drafted? Nope.
Yeah, I would probably think not, but yeah.
So does Mr. Attorney have any personal knowledge about that code?
I mean, him reading the code isn't giving him personal knowledge per their system. I don't know. I'm asking.
Jeez, we could have 5 people read something and 5 people get different opinions on what it means.
Yeah, different interpretations based on. Yeah, I get it.
Isn't that what he's doing? Isn't he moving by interpretation? He's reading something and interpreting it. Who gave him authority to read something somebody else wrote down on a piece of paper and interpret it to be used against you and me? Where did he gather this authority? His bar card number? The bar gave him this authority? Am I property to bar? No. Do I have a contract with the bar? No. So then how did the bar give him authority to go look at papers called law, statutes, codes, and ordinances and determine that they apply to me? He doesn't have that authority, okay?
Nice.
So he's got no probable cause. He's got no cause of action to get me into court. We shouldn't be here. Mr. Attorney's operating under presumptions. So now I'm going to really turn up the heat on Mr. Attorney. I'm going to start filing state criminal complaints against him and federal criminal complaints against him. And I'm going to ask, if most of the times you file them with the district attorney, and I like to send them to the state attorney general too of your state. And I always ask them, please turn these over to the grand jury, because the grand jury they have no control over. And here's what's great: when you make state and federal criminal complaints against Mr. Attorney, you become a victim. Aren't you the victim in this matter now? Hey, this guy did this to me. This guy did that to me. This guy did that to me. Because people are afraid to do this. They're afraid that there's going to be blowback. No, it's going to be the opposite. Because if anyone comes after you, isn't that intimidation of a witness or a victim? You're filing criminal complaints here saying...
You're making some really good points here, man.
This guy's doing all these bad things to me. I'm a victim here. Because I've heard people say, like, when you want to do this with a judge or a cop, they'll say, oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Somebody in government would say that. Well, isn't that intimidation of a witness? I wouldn't do that if I were you. Well, why not? It's either a crime or it's not. Why? Is that a threat? I wouldn't do this if I were you. Like something bad was going to happen to you. I wouldn't do that. So not only is that legal advice, it's a threat that somebody's giving you. And that's usually what they'll do. But when you file those criminal complaints, now you're the victim, okay? And now Mr. District Attorney and Mr. Attorney, State Attorney General, they better turn your stuff over to the grand jury. Because why wouldn't they? Okay? Remember, you're reporting crimes committed against you. You're the only one that has personal knowledge of this matter. When you give those criminal complaints to the District Attorney and the State Attorney General, well, he don't know if your complaints are valid. Right. He can read them, but when you state, I got personal knowledge, Mr. Attorney did this to me or did that to me, now he's in an awkward position. Because if he don't turn your stuff over, you file complaints against him. Hey, Mr. District Attorney, I gave you criminal complaints. You have a duty and obligation, that's your job, to turn my criminal complaints over to the grand jury. You might not like my criminal complaints. That's not your job, okay? Yeah. My complaints are valid. I spelled them out for you here, and I've sworn under penalty of perjury that these are true. Now it starts getting real political for everybody because when you file these criminal complaints, just for politics alone, and I hate politics. I hate Democrats. I hate Republicans. I hate all that stuff. But politics are great for certain reasons because you never know whose complaints, who gets your complaints. In other words, Randy Kelton in Texas, if you've seen Texas dropped all the mask mandates, and then the 20 other states followed. Abbott didn't do that out of kindness of his heart, okay? That happened because Randy Kelton filed criminal complaints against Abbott, the governor.
Wow.
And here's what happened in this matter. The district attorney he filed him with was a Democrat. Abbott's a Republican. The district attorney that he filed the complaints with, I believe he lost his election and was on his way out of office. So Mr. District Attorney wanted to leave the governor a little gift. So he took Randy's criminal complaints and he turned them over to the grand jury. Here you go, guys. Go get the Republican governor as a little parting shot. Once those criminal complaints got before the grand jury, now Abbott had a problem. He could be indicted. He could be arrested. Problem. All of a sudden, Abbott finds God and wakes up one day and says, I'm going to follow the law and I'm dropping all the mask mandates. And lo and behold, the sun opened up from the clouds spread and the sun came down from the heavens and 20 other governors went, I think I found God too, and I'm going to follow Mr. Abbott. No, Mr. Abbott picked up the phone and called the other governors and said, this crazy guy Kelton's got criminal complaints before the grand jury. And the other governors went, oh, hell no. Because Kelton's got his complaint out there on the internet, you can download it. You could go download his criminal complaint.
I want to get in touch with this, with both these guys, Randy Kelton and Brett Foundation with Rule of Law.
Brett Fountain. Yeah, Brett Fountain, like the fountain. Brett Fountain.
Fountain. I actually have it spelled really weird. I'm sorry. It is Fountain. Okay, so let me ask you this, man. Is that pretty much like what you already just run this guy through the ringer, or is there still more that you're doing to this?
Well, now what's going to happen is he's going to get a phone call or he's going to get a visit from either somebody from the state or the listen, you file your federal criminal complaints with the special agent in charge of the FBI. That's the only name they'll give you. Find your local FBI office, call up and get the name of the special agent in charge. I believe that's the only name they will release. They won't give you anybody else's name. They'll give you that name. You file your federal complaints with him. That's your 18, 241, 242, and there's a bunch of others in there. Okay. You file them criminal complaints with him. Now you've got state criminal complaints, federal criminal complaints. Guaranteed, Mr. Attorney's going to get a phone call or he's going to get letters or a phone call. They're going to check into it because remember, everybody's got to cover their rear end in this matter. They don't know where this is going. All they know is this monkey might know a little bit more than the other monkeys because he seems to know to file criminal complaints and file state. He knows something. I'm going to cover my rear end here, and I'm just going to make a phone call just to make sure to Mr. Attorney, hey, Mr. Attorney, what's going on in this matter? This guy's filing criminal complaints against you. And if you want to see this happen, evidence of this firsthand, I'm listening to the Kelton show, Randy Kelton show, and Brett's show the one night. Guy from Pennsylvania, one of my guys here, calls up. He got a DUI. Well, you and I know DUI is going to cost you what, about $12,000 by the time you're done with the DUI? It's going to cost a lot of money, okay? Yeah. So he does what I was taught, which is wrong. You file motions into the case because the judge is going to deny motions. Judges can deny motions. A motion to a judge is sort of like asking them, Pretty please, Daddy, may I? Pretty please, here. Will you grant my motion? It's like begging another man to do something for you.
Okay.
Attorneys beg. To me, I said, men and women file affidavits. We don't beg. We give orders by affidavit. So they denied all his motions, this guy. Then he started filing state criminal complaints and federal criminal complaints. By the time this procedure ran its course, they came to the guy and they said, give us $25 and go away. Okay? Because they wanted the $25 because if he pled the $25 and pled guilty, all the criminal complaints go away that he filed. So he said, nah, that's okay. I'm going to hold my hand right here. I'm good just where I'm at because he knows he had them. And like Kelton told him, he said, don't kid yourself. They got phone calls or they got a visit from somebody, probably the FBI, saying, what the hell's going on here? This guy's filing criminal complaints against you guys. And they got scared. And all of a sudden, his $12,000 went down to $25. But he's of character. And he said, no, I don't want your plea. I'm not pleading to anything. I'm not pleading guilty to anything. I'm going to stick here with my hand because I got criminal complaints against you guys, and I'm going to run you through the ringer right now. So that's another powerful thing you have there. And your ultimate smackdown of him is once you get him lined up with all this stuff, then you could actually go file a Title 42, Section 1983 suit in federal district court against him. Okay?
What is that exactly?
They'll call it a civil rights suit, okay? And people will have a tizzy about this. Well, it's under them. It's under them. I'm going to tell you, I got personal firsthand knowledge from the gentleman who's garnered over $40 million in claims against them using Title 42, Section 1983. So I don't care how like we tell you, everybody does something different. I don't care how he did it, whether it's not the purest method to do it. All I know is I look at him and I look at the settlements he got, and I know it works, okay? And I know that I got Mr. Attorney, and I'm not worried about citing their stuff in there because I got Mr. Attorney on his heels right now. He's worried about his insurance. He's worried about criminal complaints. If he gets convicted of a criminal complaint, he's done. Two things he faces. If they pull his insurance, he's done. If he gets convicted of a criminal complaint, he's done. He can't work no more. All of a sudden, he's not worried about me and you and his traffic ticket. He's worried about his rear end. This is a monkey he didn't understand was coming at him. He didn't see this monkey coming. I call it a shit show. And if you look up the definition of what that is, that's basically taking a situation and throwing it in utter chaos. So you could take a simple traffic ticket or a tax bill, and by walking through this process, you could throw that situation in utter chaos. Yeah. And now you can actually go after the judge. I just did this with a judge, okay? Get this story. I get this traffic ticket like last year, and I wanted to fight it. I wanted to try some stuff. I wanted to go in there and fight it. So I showed up to court with affidavits and notice of claims and criminal complaints. I was going to drop the hammer on them. So I show up to court. The court's closed. Nobody told me. They did get no phone call, no email, no nothing that the court's closed. Okay. So, I look this way. You left the battlefield. You guys brought the charge. You left the battlefield. I'm gone. I leave the matter go. I don't hear nothing for like 3-4 months. Okay. Suddenly I get a letter from the Department of Motor Vehicles, Pennsylvania. Get this now. They closed the court on me. It was closed on the day they told me to show up. The letter first starts off. You have till October 7th to schedule a new hearing and pay $50 for the hearing. Notice, they wanted me to pay another hearing in a matter that they shut the court down for. That just got my blood boiling. And I said, oh, no.
Yeah,
we're not doing this. Okay. Here we go. Affidavits. Here come the affidavits rolling out. I file affidavits into this matter. All right. October 7th passes. I get no more letters. I get no visits from anybody. I get no more nothing. 5-6 months goes by. I think this matter's dead. All right. This has been addressed. All of a sudden, I get a letter from the judge. It actually states he's the party moving this matter. Now, let me get this straight. The judge, the impartial third party, trier of facts, is moving a case against me. The impartial guy, the judge, is now moving a case against me because the alleged plaintiff, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, they didn't call for this hearing. They're not anywhere in the paperwork. Their name's on there, but the prosecutor for the Commonwealth, he didn't call for this hearing. The judge called for this hearing. Really? Now I got a judge moving a claim against me. Isn't that special? So I said, all right, I'm going to have fun with Mr. Judge. I go through my affidavit process, affidavit of status, affidavit of fact. Oh, here, Mr. Judge, here's a notice of claim for $100,000 for you. Oh, here's your document you sent me. That's the 25 points of fraud. I pointed everything on there. Here's your document back. Everything you got on there is fraud. I called it notice of deficiencies and irregularities. You got 3 days to resolve this, my friend. Everything on this document's fraud. Should you not resolve it, that claim of $100,000 executes. I'm going to come after you for the $100,000. He went into default last Friday. Okay. So now I'm going to start the move against him. So get this now. I also file a mail fraud complaint against him. His letter, that was mail fraud. Because in that letter, nobody states, if I don't come to his kangaroo court hearing, he's going to send armed thugs to my house to arrest me. You're subject to arrest, Really? So I'm pretty sure that's extortion. Hey, either come to my hearing, pay the bill, or come to my hearing, or I'm going to send armed thugs to arrest you, to kidnap you, not arrest you, to kidnap you from your home. Well, I'm pretty sure that's extortion. So I filed a mail fraud complaint against him with the United States Postal Service. Official mail fraud complaint. Made a copy of it, okay? And I filed a judicial complaint against him. Same thing you could do with an attorney. You could file judicial complaints against these judges. They operate by what's called canon law. So in your state, if you do a search for judicial canons in whatever your state is, you'll see like 6 or 7 canons that they follow. Okay. So you follow the canons. You file against him based on canons, a judicial complaint. But a lot of these judges, they keep their bar card. So they're actually both, they're a bar member and they're a judge. So you could also file a bar grievance against Mr. Judge if he's got his. Now you're ringing the bell twice for the judge, okay? And you're filing a notice of claim against him, which I did to Mr. Goldberg here. Now he's got to call the insurance company up and explain that he had a judicial complaint filed against him and that a notice of claim for $100,000 been filed against him. Well, here's what happened in this matter. I've sent these 2 documents out, certified mail. The one to go to the Judicial Bureau of Review, and the other one from the post office to the courthouse was 3 miles away. I could have stuck it on the back of a turtle, and he would have made it there faster than this took to get there. 3 miles away, post office, courthouse. How long do you think my letter to the judge, my affidavits, how long do you think they took to get from the post office to the courthouse? Take a guess, days-wise.
I mean, it shouldn't take more than actually really 1 full day.
How about 19 days?
Wow.
And so
in the same county and everything?
I think, I could have put it, like I said, I could have took the turtle and pointed him in the direction. He would have been there in a day or 2, okay? It's 3 miles away. It's 3 miles away. This post office delivers mail to this courthouse continuously. It's almost in the same town. So it's not like they didn't know where it was or it got lost. No, they move mail continuously from this post office to that courthouse. So day 17, I'm like, this is getting ridiculous. I can't get the green card back. I'm looking online. And here's what's weird. It was sent February 24th. As of March 3rd, they stopped updating the online thing. Now we're like March 12th, March 13th. Like, nothing's getting updated. For like 6-7 days, it must be stuck in this one location. What's going on here? So I get on day 17, I jump online at the United States Postal Service, and I find the form to put in a complaint. Like, hey, where's my letter at? Here's my information. The very next day, Saturday, I get a form letter almost from the manager of the media post office telling me, well, due to the COVID stuff, everything's delayed. Okay, let me get this straight. I sent one to the Judicial Office Bureau. That's in Harrisburg, PA, which is about a couple 100 miles away from me. So the one went a couple 100 miles away. They give me a response back. The standard, Mr. Faggiolo, we got your complaint. They gave me the standard response letter back. They stuck it in a regular envelope with a regular stamp, stuck it in the mail. It made its way all the way back to me before my document 3 miles away got delivered. Yeah, okay. So day 18, I get that letter, and magically on day 19, the morning of day 19, magically the judge gets delivery of my letters, my affidavits. I think they were playing games with the mail. I think they were hoping it was going to go away, or they were going to try and make it go away until I threw that little complaint in there, and they know I'm checking on it. Now they have to deliver it. Now they had to give it to the judge. And I've yet to hear from Mr. Judge. He went in default on Friday. I haven't heard back from Mr. Judge.
What does that mean? A judge goes on default?
Well, listen, If you're making claims against me, unfounded claims, like say I said, you know what? I own your house. You'd be like, what are you talking about? You don't own my house. And I said, listen, I'm going to bring some armed thugs with me, and we're going to take your house. You go, oh, wait a minute. I'm going to rebut this. I'm going to put it down in affidavit and say, hey, listen, you got no rights in my house. You got no interest in my house, no authority in my house. When I send that to you, if you're a public official, you owe me a duty and obligation to respond to me. If you're making claims against me, okay, because I didn't commit a crime against you and I didn't commit a crime against the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You've got nothing before your court to even be dealing with me. There's no victim and there's no verified claim before this court. Dude, what are you doing sending me a document saying you moved this matter? And here's what it says. Reason the judge moved it? Other. What the hell's that? What does other mean? I just decided he wanted to move it? Come on, man. What are we talking about here? I mean, it's like total ridiculousness, And so I said, no. So now Mr. Judge is going to get, remember I told you the first time I went to court, the court was shut? I'm going to charge him for 4 hours of my time. It took my day off. Listen, I'm just as good as any attorney. I think I'm better than these attorneys, okay? They charge $500 an hour. I want $500 an hour. I wasted 4 hours that day. Now I'm going to send him a bill. I'm going to send the court a bill for $2,000. And I'm going to reference that date. You guys gave me this order to show up on this date. I fulfilled your order. I showed up. You were closed. Remember, when you order something, you get a bill. Here's your bill, $2,000, because I'm not your property and I have no contract with you people. You people using force, threat, and duress made me appear at this hearing. You pushed me to appear. Well, great. Then you didn't even show up. So now I need to be paid for my time. Who the hell are you people to tell me to come to court and not pay me? Did the judge get paid? Yup. Did the attorney get paid that was going to prosecute it? They got paid. I didn't get paid for this yet. Every man's worth his hire. This is trust law. This is commercial law. Every man's worth his hire. So I put that work in. I wrote documents up. I took my time out. I went there. I want to be paid for my work. So he's going to get a bill for that, and he's going to get a notice of a judgment that he's in default because he never responded back to my affidavit. So now I have a commercial claim against him for $100,000. Hey, Mr. Judge, you never responded back. I gave you notice, an opportunity to defend yourself. You didn't defend yourself. Now come into court when I sue your ass. I bring you to real court and I sue you on top of the other stuff I'm going to do to you. And when I ask you, sir, did I send you an affidavits and a claim? Yes. Sir, why didn't you respond? I have no obligation to respond to you. Oh, really? So if you have no obligation to respond to me, let me get your point of view straight. You could just make legal claims against me without any ramifications. Is that what you're telling me? Because you made legal claims against me that I rebutted by way of affidavit. Because if you could just make legal claims against me without any ramifications, sir, I must be your property or I got to be under contract with you. Which one is it, sir? Where did you get this authority to tell me to show up to a court? Because you and I know, how do normal legal proceedings, real legal proceedings start? Somebody goes down. Yeah, how would they start? Someone would go to court and file a complaint, okay? And they would create a summons, and the clerk would stamp the summons, and then you'd have to take your complaint and your summons, your copies of your summons, and you'd have to go to a process server and say, hey, I need you to deliver this guy service of process. Here's where he lives. Okay, that's called process of service. What if we could do process of service through the mail, like the judge sent that ticket thing through the mail? Why the hell do we have process servers? What do we need them guys for? I'll just send it in the mail with a 50-cent stamp. Instead of paying $80, $100, I'll just put a stamp on there. No, because that's not a legal process. That's a simulation of a legal process. Because you and I, in all matters, we have a right to trial by jury. Okay? In all matters, we have a right to trial by jury. And here's a beautiful thing I found in Pennsylvania that I think is a game changer. And if you can find this stuff in your state, and I know your state courts work the same way.
Well, I'm from Virginia originally, and Virginia's a Commonwealth, so there should be a lot of similarities in Virginia and Pennsylvania.
Find any references to Virginia being moving according to the common law. Pennsylvania comes out and states it, okay? Pennsylvania states, even in a statute, get this, when I see this, my jaw dropped. Every court of Pennsylvania is a court of record. Well, if you go look at the elements of a court of record, that's a common law thing. There's 6 elements really to a court of record. One of the main elements, it proceeds according to the common law. States it right there. It actually states it right in their statute that it proceeds according to the common law. Common law is not written down. Okay? Common law is common sense. Do no harm to your neighbor. Okay? All that traffic code that they're citing me with, that's Chinese to me. 28.6.4.2, subsection F, that's Chinese. That's not common law. Okay? So in other words, that's not an element of a common law court, number one. Number two, in a real common law court, the magistrate, which is the judge, is independent from the tribunal, which is the jury. They're independent, okay, in a real common law court. When you go to that traffic court or this little tax court, the judge is the jury. He's not separate. The judge is acting as both the judge and the jury. That's not an element of a court of record, okay? Wow. The procedures are recorded. And that doesn't just mean like video recorded or audio recorded. It means that documents are recorded into the file, into the actual docket and put on record, okay? You're rarely ever going to see that in a traffic matter, okay? So that's not an element of a court of record, okay? And you keep checking off. They're missing all these 6 elements, and I got them up in my videos, and you'll see I say these are the 6 elements. Well, if they even miss just one element of a court of record, and the main one they're missing is it's not a common law court. Let me ask you this. I just read you the statute. Every court of Pennsylvania is a court of record, right?
Right.
So if that's not a court of record, is that a court of Pennsylvania?
And it wouldn't be, no.
No, it can't be, right? So is it a foreign jurisdiction? Is it a private court?
Yeah.
It's gotta be. Because it's not a court of Pennsylvania, and it's not a court, guess what? It's not a court of the United States either. You know why? Because all courts all federal courts are courts of record that proceed according to the common law. So it's not a court of the United States of America, and it's not a court of Pennsylvania. What kind of court is this? It's a foreign jurisdiction, isn't it? It's a private court. So I write back in my letter to them, hey, listen, I can't accept your invitation because I would be basically, first of all, I'd be waiving rights showing up to your hearing. Because remember, I got a right to trial by jury. You do too. You got a right to trial by jury in all matters, okay? You have a right to a common law court, to enter a common law court. You're not entering a common law court. Their thing's not a common law court. So for you to show up there, by you showing up, and if you don't handle yourself right when you show up, you're going to grant them basically general jurisdiction.
Yeah. And
you're going to assume they have jurisdiction over you in this matter. Well, didn't you just waive a bunch of rights by showing up to that little kangaroo court? Yep. So, sorry, sir, I can't show up to your hearing. I'd be waiving numerous constitutionally protected rights, and I'm not going to waive any rights ever. And oh, by the way, if I show up to your court, I would be contributing the crimes that you've already committed against me and that you're attempting to continue to commit against me. I'm a victim in this matter, sir. I'm not coming in. That's like asking the rapist to come, you rape them. They rape you once on the side of the road, okay? The cop. And then he invite you to another rape party. Hey, come on in. We need to rape you again. No, that's okay. I had enough, okay? I'm going to stay out of your court. So, listen, I can't show up to your court. Your court's not a court of the United States of America, and your court's not a court of Pennsylvania. You don't meet the definitions. You're a foreign jurisdiction. You're a private court. I got no contracts or obligations with your court. I'm not owned by your court. I'm not your property. Why would I show up to your hearing? And I just don't go to the hearing anymore. That's how I deal with them now with traffic tickets. Anything that's not a judicial process where a process server knocks on the door and says, Mr. Faggiolo, you've been served. If I don't get that, I'm not showing up. And guess what? Nobody's come for me. Nobody's arrested me. Nobody's mailed me anything in over 3 weeks for this traffic ticket case. Because now Mr. Judge is a little nervous thinking, oh, hell, he filed a judicial complaint against me. Might be his first he's ever gotten. You know that?
Right.
People are afraid of judges. Hey, people are afraid of judges.
Oh, I know. And people are afraid of cops.
So this might be the first time this has happened to him. And now he's a little worried because now he's seeing affidavits laid on his lap with a claim. He knows, listen, I'm no brilliant guy, but I know an affidavit's got to be responded by an affidavit. And he knows it too. He's a judge and he's got a lot of legal training. He knows what an affidavit is. He knows when I said, you know what, sir, everything you just did here is fraud. You moved it. You're supposed to be the impartial third-party trier of facts. You're actually moving the case against me. That's not what judges do. The party moving the case against you, the alleged plaintiff, they've got to move the case against you, not the judge. The judge don't get to move it against you. The other party's got to put a motion in to resume the hearing or for a hearing. That wasn't done here. The judge did this. So you can see where you can start to take this stuff.
Yeah.
When you just start hammering them with this stuff. Are we even talking law anymore? Are we even dealing with law? Are we dealing with like insurance companies and liability? Aren't we really dealing with that?
That's what it sounds like.
And criminal complaints. If that judge gets tagged with a criminal complaint, he can never be a judge. He can't be a judge anymore. Think he's worried about my $143 traffic ticket right now? Or is he going, oh, Jesus, what the hell did I do here? I got a problem with my insurance. This guy could file criminal complaints against me. This guy could sue me over a $143 traffic ticket. I better make this thing go away quick.
Now, let's just say they made it go away, can you still sue them?
Yes.
Can you still continue that course if you want to, just to teach those individuals lessons that may need to be taught lessons?
Sure, because really, look at it this way. When they drop it, that's like you catching a burglar breaking in your house, okay? And the burglar going, oh, you got me now. I'm just going to go about my way. No harm, no foul. Doesn't matter.
You broke in my house. I think I'm going to have to do something to you for it. You violated me.
If you just get the case knocked down and they just let it go, isn't that really what you're doing to them? It's like catching a burglar and them saying, oh, no harm, no foul. You go about your way, we'll go about our way. No, you got to get redress. Now you go after them. Now you go after them commercially. You try and collect on that claim. If the insurance company wants to pay it out of court, you give them an option. Hey, listen, you either pay this $100,000 claim here in the private among us out of court, or I'm going to file for 10 times this amount in federal district court. And I'm going to not only going to file for 10 times the amount for $1 million. Now I'm going to, even though it's a civil matter, I'm going to incorporate all the criminal things that this judge did, federal and state, and I'm going to bring them into this suit, and I'm going to list them in my civil complaint there. And I'm going to ask that the court recommend prosecution for the crimes that were committed.
Wow.
So now the insurance company's got to decide, do we want to pay $100,000 or do we want to pay $1 million? And if they want to play chicken with you, go file for $1 million. Set your suit up properly. You can go on any federal district website. Most of them have listen, I hate to say the term pro se, but they're called pro se guides. Never let anybody call you pro se in a hearing, okay? Here's what pro se is. Pro se is sort of a license to be a temporary lawyer. Think about that when they call you pro se.
When you represent yourself, you're pro se. You're
pro se. Now, how can you represent yourself? You are yourself. When they say you're representing yourself, in a way they're actually stating that you're representing the trust that they got set up under your name, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've always heard people using the term representing yourself as well.
Which means the same thing, right? In other words, but you can't represent yourself. In other words, you can only represent something else.
Yeah.
How do you represent yourself? You are yourself.
Because you are yourself. You don't need a representation because you are self.
Exactly. Makes no sense. Why would I?
It's so simple.
In other words, the attorney can represent me because he's not me, right? He's representing me because he's not me. But I'm me. How can I represent me? Do I have a conversation with myself? Hey, Alphonse, do you think we should do this? Yeah, Alphonse is one. I think we should.
That's exactly what I would do in the court, but then they would probably try to deem you as like being not competent, or that you have mental health issues and you need a psych evaluation.
Well, if Mr. Attorney is going to claim he's speaking for Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck, I'm going to recommend that Mr. Attorney get a psych evaluation, because I'm pretty sure there's no Mr. and Mrs. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania coming into court to testify.
That would be awesome.
I think Mr. Attorney needs a psych evaluation. I understand fully well what's going on here. You're trying to fleece me, is what you're trying to do.
Right.
So when you start doing this to them, they're not used to seeing this, okay? And I've seen this work all over the world: Canada, UK, Bulgaria. That's that audio I was telling you about, the Northern Ireland. They had this audio recording, these two guys. There were 40 hearings on this matter. 40 hearings. This guy was arrested. I have no idea what the case is about. He was arrested a while back. So they're getting ready to start the trial. And the prosecutor's over there, a woman, and it's him and his buddy on the other side. And the judge getting ready to start the trial. And the guy says, ma'am, the judge, the woman, ma'am, can I have a few minutes with the prosecutor? Can I speak with the prosecutor? And the judge says, yeah, okay. So you walk off into a separate area to have a conversation. And here's basically the conversation. He asked her questions like this. We were just talking about this. Do you have any evidence of your agency? In other words, who's the principal that hired you? Okay. She says, oh, the Crown or whatever it was, whatever the fallback was. Well, that's not an agent. Okay. That's a fiction. In other words, you mean to tell me some fictional entity said, listen, I need you to go to court and go after this guy? No. Okay. Who exactly gave you this authority?
Yeah, because a fictional entity can't give you the authority. Right.
She knew this. She couldn't answer it. She's hemming and hawing. And he said, excuse me. I know he got this off me. What standing do you have in this matter? Standing means you had a right violated or you were harmed or damaged. Does that attorney have any standing in this matter against him? No. She wasn't damaged or harmed. Know what she says? The arrest gave me standing. Let me get this straight. Do you have personal knowledge of that arrest? Were you there? Do you know anything that happened at that arrest? No. You not only do you not have standing, you have no personal knowledge. You just lied to me. You just basically fabricated a lie to me and stated that an arrest gave you standing in a matter. How did my arrest, remember we talked about standing? How did my arrest violate your right, a right of yours, or how did it harm or damage you? How did my arrest violate a right or harm or damage you? It did. You don't have standing in this matter. Then he hits it with the clubbing thing. He says, I'm going to need to see a copy of your bond. I don't have to show you that. Oh, really? Well, he said, you understand that you're liable for this. I'm not liable. Sure you are. You're taking actions against me, illegal actions. We just established that you have no jurisdiction in the matter. You've got no standing in the matter, and you've got no personal knowledge. Yet your actions are now causing harm and damage to me, a man. I need to know you're bonded and you're covered for this because you're liable for this. So they break apart. They go back into court. The judge is getting ready to start the case. She tells them, there's two officers sitting there. She says, well, you have a right to call the officers and question the officers. So she gives her instructions. As soon as the judge stops talking, the prosecutor jumps in and says, Madam Judge, she said, I'm not comfortable prosecuting this case. I'm going to remove myself from this case. I feel threatened.
Oh, wow. She felt threatened?
She felt threatened. And so the judge hemmed and hawed and tried to bring him back again. They could have actually closed the judge out at that point and stated, well, now I motioned for this court for default judgment because there's no matter before this court. They could have done that, but she roped them into coming back. But I told them what questions they asked when they come back. When you come back, you ask them, say, the only reason we've returned is we need to get the bond of the attorney. We need the bonding information. We need to serve new affidavits to the attorney. And we need to serve a new notice of claim against the attorney. So that's your reason for returning. Oh, sir, I didn't return to court to litigate this matter. I returned to court I had business with this court. I needed to serve them my documents. So I said, do that. But it's funny that the two of them are walking to their car, and the one guy's been doing this for years, and he's been involved in a lot of cases. And you hear him say to the other guy, I never saw that before. I never seen a prosecutor take himself off a case. He goes, I never saw this before. Like they were stunned that the prosecutor removed her from the case. Did we do this by law? What do? We just showed Miss Prosecutor, you understand that I'm going to sue you, and I hope you got a bond because what you're doing here is unlawful. And once she understood that liability,
she didn't want any part of it.
Well, no part of it, because if she gets sued, that's going to affect her insurance. And if it's something bad, she could get dropped. She can't be an attorney anymore. She fled the case. And wow. This is our power. This is our power. So instead of fighting them over law, you can fight them with process. Everything we're doing is based on law, though. If I give you an affidavit, you got to rebut it. You don't just get to make claims
You're
against
just using the system against itself.
Neo, okay, Matrix. Basically making the system collapse because of itself, Okay. Yeah, it's all you're doing is you're taking their stuff and using it against them.
Okay, let me say I've got a little bit of time because I've got some stuff I got going on in the next half hour, so we're gonna have to sort of wrap things up here shortly. One, I want to do more conversations because there's a lot more things I definitely want to ask you. I want to kind of get to the things I was saying about this alliance and let you know what I'm trying to do. And when I say it's just the initial process of bringing people together. There's no ego or I in this. I just, between all the people I've had connections with, the people I've interviewed, the people I'm talking to, the people that's coming in contact with me, the people that I feel like Creator is divinely guiding me to connect with, I'm trying to bring all those individuals, groups together as much as possible, form an alliance, a council of sorts, a mastermind group where, and I know some of the things that have been done, but we need to do something a little bit more serious, I think, and not so much in the private with all aspects. So Dean and Darren Clifford, I've invited them. This guy, Robert Michael from House of Marcus, REM Private Management. He deals with equity and trust. Same thing with Aaron from Divergence, Darren Clifford. KL, who was on Crow's show, is kind of in a similar vein as well. So that's the ultimate goal, is I'm trying to invite, and anybody who you think, like the Bill Thorntons, the Mark Stevens, I was going to invite Carl Lentz to the table, Christopher James as well. Everyone's going to have an invitation to come together and share information, and basically ways that we can all individually improve our methods, and in the separate groups. Like, let's say you're not familiar with American States Assembly and you start looking at some of their process, maybe you can offer some things that will help their process a little bit better and make their streamlined process a little bit easier. So I think the more of us that can come together, get rid of the ego, and work towards the greater good of trying to help humanity, help our fellow man and woman, our brother and sister, I think that this is the time is now. And I really feel like it's all being put together very fluidly. So I would like to extend an invitation to you and anybody that you think has something to truly bring to the table. I want to get a really good group going, and then start, once we are all able to gather of sorts, we'll figure out what everybody's comfortable with as far as like, can we record these and allow for this information to be released, whether it's through a website that you have to log in, or a YouTube channel, or whatever the situation might be. And how can we just move forward? How can we build strength in numbers? How can we do enough to where we can get enough people to take these stands and make all these individual choices to come back to the land of the living, so that we can try to infect the rest of the world with this living virus? Does that make sense?
Yeah, listen, I mean, like I said, I'll talk and work with anybody that wants to talk and work with me. I mean, it's like I've told other people that I've worked with that it's not an ego thing for me, man. And if you think this is about money, listen, you know how many offers I've gotten, private offices for consultations and this money, that money? I haven't taken one of them, okay? I haven't taken one because that's not the purpose of what I've done here. It's the reason I put them documents up there is I wanted to be an open book and just give some people the tools, because I think there's a starvation out there where it's not that people, they don't want to fight back. They just don't know where to start. They don't even know where point A is. Like they don't know where to get to point A to start. And just if you could give them a little direction and just say, hey, listen, like we were talking about today, you got a little process now. Somebody messes with you, you go take Mr. Attorney for a little journey, and look, I got all supporting documents up on my site. Go download them for free. I'm not charging you anything for them. Great. But all I ask of you, when you do that, once you do that for your state, whatever, share it with your fellow people, your fellow man, okay? Like I got a lot of people from Canada and the UK up there. So when they're taking my documents, they're modifying them for the UK and for Canada. Share them with your fellow Canadians and your fellow, the people in the UK. Share them with your fellow men and women. So that when someone comes up there and says, hey, does anybody have an affidavit of status for the UK? Yeah, here's mine. So you start to share and network, and you could develop these processes. Like I said, if you want to do that, that's great. We could put these processes together that are lethal. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. When all this knowledge comes together and people are able, like, because what I feel like a lot of people are missing a piece of the puzzle.
Sure.
And the more of us that can come together and bring those pieces of the puzzle together, we can actually put that puzzle together, and then people can figure out what works well for them, and then give people those options where they have a choice to make based off the research and making educated decisions on what's going to be best for their lives individually or for their families or whatever the situation might be, but not saying that this is the only route. This is the only way that you can be free. This one way that you have no choice in the matter of. So,
yeah. Like I said, I mean, it's funny is I've had people say, like I said, I don't have all the answers. And the way I learned is by doing, basically. In other words, I got thrown in the mud with the pigs.
Trial and error.
It was a fight or flight. Listen, either you fight back or, you just settle and give it up, And I fought back. And when I fought back, it forced me to learn stuff, and we're talking about the spiritual stuff before. It's uncanny how so many things where so many people have sort of come across my path or like the knowledge of how I discovered something was put before me just the right time when I needed it. It's uncanny where it's beyond coincidental.
No, it's serendipitous. I talk about this a lot. I had a string of what I thought were coincidental incidences that just turned into this serendipitous stream of moments. It's still going on. So
yeah, and that's what I think that's how I think that's what this stuff is. I think once you remove that barrier, that cloud around you, and you sort of just open yourself up to hey, you let me know what you want me to do. You push me down the road and I'll go down that road, And once you sort of open that up, it's like there's a clear communication channel there. And it's almost like somebody's sort of looking out for you to a certain degree where, things sort of break your way and things sort of come your way. And I think that's probably what they're trying to hide from a lot of us is they want to keep us like batteries in the Matrix. They want to keep you working 9 to 5 and having to worry about the family and this, and you've got no time to learn who you are, where you are, and how to protect yourself. Okay. And once, like I'm lucky, I'm in a situation where I had the time to figure it out. And I see other people like this too that I talk to they're awake. That sounds weird to say that term, but they're awake. They start to see the matrix of what these people actually can and can't do. And yeah, man, I'll network with anybody that wants to talk about that or discover systems or, like I said, maybe they can take something I'm doing and they can improve upon it. Hey, right. Yeah, why don't you do this? Never thought of that. That's great. And I can look at something they're doing and say, hey, you know what? Why don't you do this? And they go, hey, that's great. Because what you start to do is you start to bulletproof each person's, I hate to say the term, each individual's stuff, processes, methods.
Well, the more that we can do this, the more that we can vet each other's processes, the more that we can make sure that they're effective, that people aren't, that we're not continually learning from our mistakes, that we're actually making progress. That's the point.
Yeah,
I think a lot of this stuff has been.
I've had people say, well, affidavits aren't going to do anything. No. Geez, I've seen about 50 cases got knocked out with affidavits so far. Like not just traffic ticket cases, decent cases, okay?
Right.
They work. This stuff works because did I really talk anything about law with you today? Did we really discuss any really in-depth law stuff?
Not in-depth, no. It seemed like very, very general stuff that you would hear. Like if you had to go to court for a traffic summons, it sounds like what I would hear between the judge, all the different attorneys, the prosecutor. It just sounds like the stuff I would hear in the background waiting to be called.
Did we talk about anything today that if somebody took a little bit of time and applied it that they couldn't master or couldn't do?
I'm glad that you said that because a lot of people get overwhelmed by this, and a lot of people who basically, if anybody is feeling overwhelmed, it is really, really easy to catch up because we are standing on the shoulders of giants, of people who have put in the work, the research, and we get to reap those benefits.
And that's why the affidavits are up on my site and the different stuff. I just put a motion to recuse a judge up there that I actually did as a motion as a defendant back before I knew anything, before I understood what pro se was. Like I said, I got thrown in the mud with the pigs. It took me a while to figure it out. I went, oh, they're calling me pro se. They just brought me down to the attorney's level. They're trying to get jurisdiction over me. And that's all correctable and fixable because I threw documents into the case and I said, hey, they wouldn't take my documents because they didn't meet the rules of civil procedure. Well, the rules of civil procedure are written by the legal society, not a member of the legal society, okay? A legal society can't put rules telling me how to access an open public court.
Well, because the legal society is technically a private member association, right?
They're absolutely a private membership association.
So yeah, they don't have to answer anything publicly.
Could you and I join? Could me and you join?
Could we join? Right? If we went through the schooling process and wanted to take the test, we could join, and I'm sure there's a fee for it.
Right, but if me and you just went up and said, hey, I have no law degree, but I want to join, they'd say,
sorry.
No.
Yeah.
You're not of our ilk. You're not, you need this, you need that. So that's a private legal society. Well, guess what the rules of civil procedure will put in the courts for? To deny you your rights, okay? Because the rules of civil procedure allowed Mr. Attorney from the Sewer Authority to falsify and forge a lien against me, which he couldn't do by the Constitution, okay? Because I'm not entitled to a trial by jury. I'm entitled to face my accuser. But he cited Rule of Civil Procedure 236. Wait a minute. What the hell's that? That's Chinese to me. In other words, I'm not owned by that court. I'm not owned by the Bar Association. I'm not owned by that attorney. I've got no contracts with any of these parties. Who are they to cite rules written by a private association and apply them upon me?
Well,
I'm not a member of society. But if they could call me pro se, what have they just done to me?
They've lowered you down and set their jurisdiction. So, and I get it, man. Powerful stuff. That's why I think you definitely have, you along with like a lot of the people I mentioned and people who I haven't even mentioned or people I haven't even met or thought of, I think this is going to be a great thing pulling together all of us together. And
yeah, definitely.
And for me, it would be an absolute blessing because I get to learn and fast track this stuff and get to have what I consider to be some of the most knowledgeable, I can't really say experts, but the most knowledgeable people in these areas, as close to expert as you can get in my regards. But
and listen, that's why them documents up there, so people don't get overwhelmed. Listen, you've got a template to start. No, you're not starting from scratch. You go up there, you download my package, whatever it is. I got the package, and then if you get stuck, you jump on my Telegram group and go ask some people some questions. Hey, I'm stuck with this new document. Can somebody help me? And I tell you, you're going to get 3, 4, 5 responses. Do this, do that. So you're not starting from ground zero. You got you'll see entire packages up there. If you look under even the tax stuff, property tax stuff, you'll see entire packages that were sent out to the county, the borough, and the township. Within those packages, you're going to find affidavit of status, affidavit of fact. You're going to find a notice of claim in there. So if you're in a similar matter, you got your templates right there. There's
Sweet.
A traffic ticket one up there too. So you're not starting from ground zero. And don't try and take it in all at once. Listen, they say every great journey starts with one step. You got to take the first step. Download the documents, edit them to your situation, your name, your stuff. And when you get stuck, and then read the documents. Don't just submit them. Read them and try and understand them. And if there's something in the document you don't understand, jump on the Telegram group, type in there. We almost got 1,500 people in there now. When I started the group, I thought it'd be cool to have 10 or 15 people in there. Like you were saying, a little group to chat with. I thought 10 or 15 would be cool as hell. There are 1,500. I don't know where they're coming from. I really don't.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up when you have so many people in a group. I get it, man. And I will also include links for your Telegram group too in the video description so people can check that out. Did you have any final thoughts or anything you wanted to add to this conversation? I definitely want to do more conversations. Sure. And like I said, the invite's extended to you, and I'm glad that you're accepting for this mastermind, this alliance council, whatever it's going to turn into. But and again, I want people to go check out your YouTube channel, your actual website, and the documents. Sign up for free. Also, the Telegram group. I'll definitely have links down below for all that. Did you have anything that you wanted to add for final thoughts before we wrap up today, my friend?
Yeah, and I hate to say this to people. Please don't send me your individual matters. And I'm not, listen, when I first did the couple crow shows, I was able to get in some individual matters because nobody knew who the heck I was. I don't know who I am right now, okay? I'm not really sure. But I was able to interface with a couple people and do some really cool things. But I'm not kidding. I get about 200 emails a day. Okay. Now here's the breakdown of that. If I spent just 5 minutes on an email, you open it up, you read it, and before you respond, you're pretty much at 5 minutes. If I spend 5 minutes on one email, on the amount of emails I get, that's 16 and a half hours a day just on email. I can't do it. And when you send me like details of your situation, I'm doing you an injustice if I try and fast track reading your thing and tell you what to do. I'd have to see the documents of the case. Let me see the arrest warrant. Let me see the paperwork, what they sent you. You're talking an incredible amount of time. And what it comes down to is, do I help a few people or do I try and do interviews like this? That's why I love doing these interviews, because it's easier for me to get information out like this to the masses. Yeah. And that's why I do little tutorial videos when I get some extra time, which is rare now. I try and do a little tutorial video. like I want to do with the one from Northern Ireland, that conversation. Once I get that audio cleaned up, I'm going to go through and do a little tutorial on that, why that worked, so that you can use it and the next person can use it, because you can use it over here and you can use it in Bulgaria and you can use it anywhere. So I'm not being cold when I don't respond to you. You know, you don't get an answer back. I just, because what I don't get to that day, which is a lot of emails, I get 200 more on top of it the next day.
Right.
And it becomes a snowball. So I'm not ignoring you, and not that I don't care about your situation. I know there's some horrendous situations out there with child custody and this. I'm not ignoring you. I just can't deal with your individual matter. I hate saying that, but I got to help masses that I can help, you know, the individual person.
I'm glad you said it too, because that's another thing too with like this group. You know, the more of us that are educated, the more of us that can teach others, the more that us can help and take loads off of other people. So, I mean, we all have a role to play. We all have a part to play. It's just no matter how big or small it is, it's just playing the roles that we have to play. So that's another reason why I think this is something that's meant to be, because I get what you're saying. It makes complete sense. I can't spend all the time to do things individually. I'm trying to do the bigger picture. And then this gives us the opportunity of doing an even bigger picture. So, all right, brother, man, I really appreciate your time. If you could bear with me 1 second, I'm going to wrap things up and then stop recording. I'm going to have links down below, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, for everything that we talked about today. If you, if this just happens to be your first time ever watching any of my videos, and now we're at, you know, going on about, I think now close to 2 hours, right under the mark. And you've never seen any of my videos before and you've lasted this long, then you definitely make sure that you're subscribed to my channel. Explore, check out the videos that I've done. I'd encourage you to hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with my videos as they come out. And if you smash that like button, it helps the YouTube algorithm for other people to be able to see this information when they're looking to find some things to help them out. So as always, Alphonse, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate everybody for joining. And I encourage you to be the change by practicing change.